handle violence against gays remains a quiet but brutal fact of life.
This small city that bills itself.
No one would have ever heard or cared about Matt, except the bags and fag media immediately latched onto it, trying to make him some big fag martyr.
On November 14, 1998, the members of Tectonic Theater Project traveled to Laramie, Wyoming, and conducted a series of interviews with the people of the town. Over the next year, we would return to Laramie several times and conduct over 200 interviews. The play you're about to see is edited from these interviews, as well as journal entries from members of the company and other found texts. Company member, Greg.
My first interview was with Detective Sergeant Hinder at the Laramie Police Department. At the start of the interview, he was sitting behind his desk, sitting something like this. I was born and raised here. It's a good place to live, good people, lots of space.
There's so much space between the people and the towns here. So much time for reflection.
Rebecca Hilliker, head of the theater department at the University of Wyoming.
You have an opportunity to be happy in your life here. I found that people here were nicer than in the Midwest where I used to teach. Because, well, they were happy. They were glad the sun was shining. And it shines a lot here.
I love it here.
Doc O'Connor, limousine driver.
You know, they couldn't put me in the mess out there back east. The best thing about it is the climate. The wind, the cold. They say that the Wyoming wind will drive a man insane, but it don't bother me. Well, sometimes it bothers me, but for the most part it don't.
It's a good place to live, good people, lots of space. Now when the incident happened with that boy, a lot of press people came here. And one time, some of them even followed me out to the crime scene. And well, it was a beautiful day. Absolutely gorgeous day. Real clear and crisp. And the sky was that blue that, you know, you never be able to paint. It's just sky blue. It's just gorgeous. And the mountains in the background with a little snow on it.
Well, who found the boy? Who was out here anyway?
Well, this is a really popular area for people to run, and mountain biking is really big out here. Horseback riding, well, it's just close to town.
Who in the hell would want to run out here?
And I'm thinking, lady, you're just missing the point.
It's hard to talk about Laramie now. To tell you what Laramie means for me.
Jedediah Schultz.
If you'd asked me before, I would say that Laramie's a beautiful town. Secluded enough that you can have your own identity. A town with a strong sense of community. Everyone here knows everyone. A town with personality, which most larger towns are stripped of. But now, after Matthew, I would say we're a town defined by an accident. A crime. We became Waco. We became Jasper. A sign, and now a definition. Now, we'll be able to get that back someday, but it sure will take a while.
Company member, Greg Perrier.
We arrived at the Denver airport and drove to Laramie. The moment we passed the Wyoming border, I swear I saw a herd of buffalo. Also, I thought it was strange that the Wyoming sign said, Wyoming, like no place on earth, instead of Wyoming, like no place else on earth.
Company member, Barbara Pitts.
The first thing to greet us was Walmart. In the dark, we could be on any main drag in America. Fast food chains, gas stations, but as we drove past the downtown area, by the railroad tracks, the buildings still looked like a turn-of-the-century western town. Oh, and as we passed the University Inn, on the side times where amenities such as heated pool or cable TV are usually toted, it said, hey, it's not a Laramie value.
Company member Andy Paris.
Today, for the first time, we met someone who actually knew Matthew Shepard. Trish Steger, owner of a shop in town, referred to him as Matt.
Matt used to come into my store all the time. That's how I know.
It was the first time I heard referred to as Matt instead of Matthew.
I don't know, you know. How does any one person really know about the other? But you can ask my sister Romaine. She and Matthew were great friends.
We never called him Matthew, actually. Most of the time we called him Choo Choo. You know, because we used to call him Matt Choo, and then we just called him Choo Choo. And whenever I think of Matthew, I always think of his incredible beaming smile. I mean, he'd walk in and he'd just be like, you know, and he'd smile at everyone, and he made you feel great. He would like come into the coffee shop and stare people down because he always wanted to sit at the end seat so that he could talk to me while I was working. And if someone was sitting in that seat, he'd just stare at them until they left. But, you know, I did hear from Matthew about 48 hours before his attack, and he told me that he had joined the gay and lesbian group on campus, and that he was really enjoying it. You know, he was getting ready for Pride Week and whatnot, and he was really stoked about school. Yeah, he was really excited about being there.
Today we're moving from our motel and heading for the Best Western.
Moises Cobb.
I hope is that it is better Western.
Amanda Grant.
Today, we divided up to go to different churches in the community. Moises and I were given the Baptist church. We were welcomed to the service by the Reverend himself standing at the entrance to the chapel. This was what I remember of the sermon that morning.
My dear brothers and sisters, I am here today to give you the word of the Lord. Now, I have this simple truth that I tell my colleagues I'm going to share with you today. The word is either sufficient or it is not. Now see, science says that human history is 5 billion or 6 billion years old. I mean, what is a billion years, give or take? But see, the Bible tells us that human history is 6,000 years old. The word is either sufficient or it is not.
Stephen B. Johnson, Unitarian minister.
Dominant religious traditions in this town. Baptist, Mormon, they're all over the place. It's not like something. They're all over. It's like jam on toast down here.
The Mormon church has a little different thing going that irritates some folks.
Doug Laws, state and classical leader for the Mormon Church.
And that is that we absolutely believe that God still speaks to men. We don't think that it happened as some folks wrote it in the Bible. God speaks to us today, and we believe that. We believe that the prophet of the church has the authority to receive inspiration and revelation from God.
So the spectrum would be to the left of the panel. So far left that probably sitting alone is me. The Unitarian Church. Unitarians are by and large humanist. Many who are atheist. I mean we. You know, I'm not even sure we're religion. And to the right of the panel, to his credit, his father, Catholic priest, someone who has been well established here. He did not equivocate when all this happened. He hosted the vigil for Matthew that night.
I was really jolted. Because, well, when we did the vigil, we wanted to get all of our members involved. And we called for them, and it was like, they're going to just wait and see which way the wind blows. And that angered me immensely. I mean, we're supposed to stand out as leaders, and I just thought, wow, what's going on?
God has set boundaries. And one of our responsibilities is to learn. What is it that God wants? So you study scripture, you look to your leaders, then you know what the bounds are. Now, once you know what the bounds are, then you sort of get a feel for what's out of bounds. See, there's a proclamation that came out of a family. A family is defined as one woman and one man and children. That's a family. That's about as clear as you can state it. There's no sexual deviation in the Mormon church. No leniency. We just think it's out of bounds.
I warn you, you will be mocked. You will be ridiculed by the singularity in your faith. But let the Bible be your guide. It's all in there.
The Christians. Many of the conservative ones stayed silent on this. Conservative Christians use the Bible to the world that in the Bible, Americans believe, and they do, that the Bible is the Word of God. How are you going to fight that?
See, I'm a biblicist, which means that the Bible does not need me to make it true. The Bible is true whether I believe it or not. The Word is either sufficient or it is not.
Amen.
I arrived in Laramie on September 15th. I looked around, tumbleweeds, cement factories, and then I wondered, what the hell am I doing in Wyoming? 3 weeks later, I found out what the hell I was doing in Wyoming.
I had breakfast this morning with a university student named Zubaida Ula. She's an Islamic feminist who likes to do things her own way.
I've lived in Laramie since I was born. Yeah, my parents are from Bangladesh. 2 years ago, because I'm Muslim, I decided to start wearing a scarf. That's really changed my life in Laramie. Yeah, like, people come up to me and say things to me, like, why do you have to wear that thing on your head? Like, when I go to the grocery store, I'm not looking to give people Islam 101, you know what I mean? So I'll be like, it's a part of my religion, and they'll be like, this is the worst part, because they'll be like, I know it's a part of your religion, but why? And it's like, how am I supposed to go into the whole doctrine of physical modesty and my own spiritual relationship with the Lord standing there with my pop and chips, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's so unreal to me that, yeah, that a group from New York would be doing a play about Laramie. And I was picturing it, like, you're going to be doing a play about my town. You're going to be on stage in New York and you're going to be acting like you're us. That's so weird.
Today, Barbara and I went to Fireside Bar, which was the last place Matthew was in public.
The Fireside definitely feels like a college bar with a couple pool tables and a stage area for karaoke night. Still, the few regulars in the late afternoon were hardly the college crowd.
First person we talked to was Matt Milton, the owner.
Okay, it was karaoke night that night. About 20 or 30 people. Matt came in and he was sitting right where you were sitting. I mean, if you want to talk to somebody, you should talk to Matt Galloway, who was bartending that night. I mean, his character stands for itself. Hey, is Galloway bartending tonight?
Okay, I'm gonna make this brief. Factual, just the facts. But it will be everything. Okay, well, it was around 10 o'clock, usual time. I clock in, it's a Tuesday night. Around 10:30, Matthew Shepard comes in, orders a Heineken, and sits down right there. What could I tell you about Matthew? If I had 100 customers like him, it'd be the most perfect bar ever. I mean, nothing to do with sexual orientation or anything, but just absolute manners. Manners, politeness. Anywho, around 11:45, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson come in. I didn't know their names then, but, you know, they're the kids. They're the perps and the kids. Anywho, they come in all stone-faced and rude, you know, grunty, gimme, that kind of stuff. Anywho, they come in and pay for a pitcher in dimes and quarters. $5.50 in dimes and quarters. What a freaking nightmare.
Romaine Patterson.
Money meant nothing to Matthew because he came from a lot of it. And he would like hand over his wallet in 2 seconds because money meant nothing. His shoes might have meant something. They can say it was robbery, but I don't buy it. Not even for an iota of a second.
So a few moments went by and I noticed that Russell and Aaron are by Matthew.
Aaron said that a guy walked up to him and that he was gay, that he wanted to get with Aaron and Russ.
Kristen Price, girlfriend of Aaron McKinney.
And that he got aggravated with it and told him that he wanted nothing to do with him and then walked off. That's when he and Russ decided to go to the bathroom and pretend that they were gay, get him in the truck and rob him.
Okay, no. They said that he came on to them, that he approached them, but I absolutely positively disbelieve and refute that statement, 100%. I refute it, and I'll give you 2 reasons why. 1, character reference. Why would Matthew approach them? He wasn't coming on to anybody else at the bar. Why them? I don't believe it. 2, territorialism. Matthew had been seen here all night, in his area. Aaron and Russell had seen in Matt's area upon first interaction. So who approached who?
But Matthew was the kind of person, like, he would never not talk to someone for any reason. If someone came up to him and started talking, he'd just be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. He never had a problem just striking up a conversation with anybody.
So basically what I'm testifying to, because I am basically the key witness in this case. I'm testifying that I saw Matthew Shepard leave with the two individuals. I didn't get to see their face, but I saw the back of their heads. And when I looked over, Russell and Aaron were gone. So you do the math.
The fence. I've been out there 4 times. I've taken visitors. Clearly, it takes a very powerful personal experience to go out there. It's so stark and so empty. You can't help but think of Matthew out there for 18 hours in nearly freezing temperatures. The view up there isolated. And the words, God, my God, why have you forsaken me? Comes to mind.
Well, I took off from my bike about 5 p.m. on a Wednesday. I kind of just felt like going for a ride. So I went at the top of Cactus Canyon, and I'm not super familiar with the area. So on my way back down, I was just kind of picking the way to go. Which now, it makes me think that God wanted me to find it, because there was no other way I was going to go that way. So I was looking around, and I see something that ended up to be Matt. And he was just kind of lying there. And I'm like, it's a scarecrow. I'm like, Halloween's coming up. Thought he was a Halloween guy. So I got my bike, walked around the fence. It was a bug type fence. And I got closer, and I noticed his hair. And that was the major key to me. Noticing it was a human being was his hair. And I even noticed the chest going up and down. And I still thought it was some kind of mechanism. So I ran to the nearest house as fast as I could and called the police.
I responded to the call. When I got there, at first the only thing I had seen was partially somebody's feet. And I got out of my vehicle and ran over. I saw what appeared to be a young man, 13, 14 years old, because he was so tiny, lying on the ground, tied to the bottom end of the pole. I did the best that I could. The gentleman laying on the ground, Matthew Shepard, there was blood all over his face, and there was blood underneath him, and he was barely breathing. And I tried to breathe for him, but I couldn't get his mouth open. His mouth wouldn't open. And his head was distorted. It did not look normal. It looked as if he had a really harsh head.
I was working in the emergency room when Matthew Shepard was brought in. I don't think any of us can remember seeing a patient with that kind of condition. I mean, some of us have worked in a big city hospital might have, but the most of us here haven't worked in a big city hospital, and well, it's just not something you expect to see here. You expect these kind of injuries from a car. A car going down a hill at like 80 miles an hour. You expect to see these kind of injuries from something like that. You just don't expect to see these injuries from a person doing this to another person. I mean, the ambulance reported it as a beating, and so, well, we all knew it.
There was nothing I could do. I mean, if there was anything I could have done to help him, I would have done it. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs, trying to get something out of him. Like, hey, hello, wake up. But he didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't anything.
I mean, your first thought is, certainly you like to think that somebody from outside of town came through and beat somebody up, you know? I mean, things happen. Shit happens, and it happens in Laramie. But if someone had been beaten repeatedly, certainly that's something that offends us. I think that's a good word for it. It offends us.
He was bound so tight. I mean, I was finally able to get my knife through there. We rolled him over to his left side. And when we did that, he quit breathing. And immediately I rolled him back over on his left, and that was just enough of an adjustment. It gave me enough room to cut him free there. And then I saw the EMS unit coming from over the hill. When they got there, they placed a neck collar around him, put him on a backboard, and scooted him from underneath the fence. Then Rob drove the ambulance to Ivanson Hospital's emergency room.
Now, the strange thing is, 20 minutes before Matthew Shepard was brought in, Aaron McKinney was brought in. And I guess they got into it later on that night. So here I am, working on Aaron, and the ambulance brings in Matthew. Now at this point, I didn't know that there was a connection at all. So I tell Aaron to wait, and I go treat Matthew. So there's Aaron in one room of the ER, and Matthew Shepard in another room, just 2 doors down.
They showed me a picture. Days later, they showed me a picture of Matthew. I never would have recognized him.
And then 2 days later, I find out the connection, and I was very, very struck. These were 2 kids, and they were both my patients, and they were two kids. I treated both of them, both their bodies. For a moment, I wondered, is this how God feels? Looking down at us, how we are all his children, our bodies, our souls, and for a brief moment, I have a great deal of compassion, but for the both of them.
And they shall lead me home.
This is John Peacock, Matthew's academic advisor.
Well, the news reports started trickling down Thursday, but no names were mentioned. The reality of this crime was not mentioned. All that was mentioned was that there was a man, a Laramie man found beaten out on the prairie, basically. Later on that evening, they mentioned his name. It was just like, that can't. That's not the Matthew Shepard that I know. That's not the person who I'm in love with.
I was in the coffee shop.
Romaine Patterson.
And someone pulled me aside and said, I don't know much, but they say there's been a young man who's been beaten in Laramie. And they say his name is Matthew Shepard. And he said, do you think this could be our Matthew? And I said, well, yeah, it sounds like it could be our Matthew. So I called up my sister Trish, and I'm just like, tell me what you know. I need to know anything you know because I don't know anything.
So I'm on the phone with my sister Romaine, and that's when the entire story came up on the Channel 5 News. And it was just like, ba-boom.
And the news reports kept rolling in. Young University of Wyoming student. His age, his description, it's just like,
And it's just, I instantly felt sick to my stomach. Because I had to tell my sister that, yeah, it was your friend, Matthew.
And then I watched the 10 o'clock news that night, where they started speaking about the nature and the seriousness of it.
Our focus today turns to Laramie, Wyoming, in the Appleton County Courthouse, where Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson are being charged with the brutal beating of Matthew Shepard, a gay University of Wyoming student.
Catherine Connelly.
Well, the arraignment was on Friday, right around lunchtime, and I said, I'm just going. I just took off. It's just on the street, and so I walked a few blocks and I went. Has anyone told you about the arraignment? Well, there were probably 100 people there, and probably as many news media by that point. A lot more of the details had finally come out, and the fact that the perpetrators were kids, local kids who every single person from around here has some type of relationship to. And what everyone was really, I think, waiting on pins and needles for was what would happen when they walked in. And so what happened? So there's at least 200 people in the room at this point, and they walk in their complete orange jumpsuits and their shackles, and you could have heard a pin drop.
The essential facts are that the defendants Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson met Matthew Shepard at the fireside bar. And after Mr. Shepard confided that he was gay, the subjects deceived the subject into leaving with them in their vehicle to a remote area. Upon arrival in said area, both subjects tied their victim to a buck fence, robbed him, tortured him, and beat him. They were later contacted by officers of the Laramie Police Department, who observed inside the cabin and picked up a pair of black patent leather shoes belonging to the victim, Matthew Shepard. The subjects also
I don't think there was anyone who was up in the
all
courtroom
containing $20
who wasn't
cash,
crying at the
shoes,
interview.
and other items.
I mean, it lasted
Later
5
obtained the
minutes.
victim's address in order to
It
later
kept on getting more and more horrific, finally ended with.
Said defendants left the victim begging for his life.
Laramie, Wyoming, often known as the Gem City of Plains, is now the eye of the storm. Laramie has its breakneck and yahoos for sure, but there are no big eyes.
Okay, University of Wyoming.
It was tough business as Matthew Shepard and as all his friends knew to be gay in the cowboy county.
It was you. It was hers. We're talking hundreds of reporters, which makes a huge thing in the town's population. There's reporters everywhere, news trucks everywhere on campus, everywhere in the town. But we're not used to that type of disorders to begin with. We're not used to that type of attention.
Wyoming Governor Jim Granger, a first-time Republican up for re-election.
I am sickened and outraged that he was crime committed on Matthew Shepard. I extend my most heartfelt sympathies to his family.
Governor, you haven't pushed hate crime legislation in the past.
I would like to urge the people of Wyoming against overreacting in a way that gives one group special rights over the other. We will wait and see if the vicious beating and torture of Matthew Shepard was motivated by hate.
You've got the beginning of the news story. They have the graphics in the background, and they've got murder in Wyoming. Now, Wyoming's dripping red like it's got blood in it or something. And it's like, what is this? This is sensationalism. And we're here going, wait a minute. We had the guys in jail in less than a day. I think that's pretty damn good.
Look, I do think the media made people careful because it made people think. People were in their homes watching TV and listening to CNN and watching Dan Rather saying, well, Jesus Christ, well, that's not how it is here. Well, how is it here?
Matthew Shepard, medical update. Saturday, October 10th. Future Valley CEO, Rulon Stacy.
By this point, I had looked out there. And where there had been 2 or 3 reporters, it must have been about 10 or 15 still photographers, another 20 or 30 reporters, and 10 video cameras. The parents had just arrived. I had barely introduced myself to them. I looked out there and I thought, my gosh, what am I going to do? Matthew Shepard arrived approximately 9:15 p.m. October 7th. When he arrived, he was unresponsive and breathing support was being provided. Matthew's major injuries upon arrival consisted of hypothermia and a fracture from behind his head to just in front of his right ear. This has caused bleeding in the brain, as well as pressure on the brain. There were also several lacerations on his head, face, and neck. Matthew's parents arrived on October 9th and are now at his bedside. The following is a statement from them. First of all, we want to thank the American public for their kind thoughts and fond wishes for Matthew's speedy recovery. We appreciate your prayers and goodwill, and we know that they are something Matthew would appreciate too. We also have a special request for the members of the media. Matthew is very much in need of his family at this time, and we ask that you respect our privacy, as well as Matthew, so that we can concentrate all of our efforts, thoughts, and love on our son. Thank you very much.
Both Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson pled not guilty to charges.
I guess the thing that bothered me the most was seeing him, touching him. As a homicide detective, you look at bodies and this poor boy is just sitting here, fighting all of his life, just trying to make it. I wanted it, somebody look you know.
I keep seeing that image in my head when I found him. Why did God want me to find him?
Matt Galloway.
If I had an amazing hindsight in 2020 to stop what occurred that night, I should have noticed. These 2 guys shouldn't have been talking to this guy. If I just didn't have my head down for those 20 seconds washing those dishes, things I could have done. What the hell was I thinking?
Reggie Flutie.
It was just an overwhelming amount of blood, you know, and we tried to wear protective gloves, but we had a real cheap sheriff at the time, and he bought us shape gloves, you know, you put them on, and they just keep breaking. So finally your mind thinks, don't hesitate. That's what your mind keeps going back to, is don't hesitate. Then probably a day and a half later, the hospital called and they told me that Matthew had HIV. And they said, you've been exposed. And you've had a bad exposure.
Would you like to talk about losing sleep?
Marge Murray, Reggie's mother.
So I said to the doctor, okay, what do I do? And they said, get up here. So I got up there. We started the ATZ sick drugs immediately.
Now they told me that that's a medication that is administered 36 hours after you've been exposed. It can maybe stop you from getting the exposure. And quite frankly, I wanted to lash out at somebody. Not at Matthew. Please understand that one of us are mad at Matthew. We thought about McKinney and Henderson and how 2 so much grief for so many people. She can't go before me. I can't handle my baby going before me.
That first week alone, vigils for Matthew Shepard were held in Laramie, Denver, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs. Soon after, in Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta, Nashville, and Portland, Maine, among others. And in Los Angeles, 5,000 people gathered. And in New York City, a political rally ended in civil disobedience and hundreds of arrests. And the Puget Rally website received close to 1 million visitors from across the country and around the world, all expressing hope for Matthew's recovery.
We went to the candle vigil.
Zubaida.
And it felt so good to be with people who felt like shit. I kept feeling like I don't deserve to feel this bad, you know? And someone got up there and he said, blah, 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 blah. I'm saying it wrong, but basically he said, come on, guys, let's show the world that Laramie is not this kind of a town. But it is that kind of a town. If it wasn't that kind of a town, then why did this happen here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why. Because it happened here. So how could it not be that kind of a town where this kind of thing happens? Like, that's like looking at an Esther painting and getting all confused. Like, it's just totally like, like, how can you even say that? And we have to mourn this, and we have to be sad that we live in a town, a state, a country where shit like this happens. I mean, these are people that are trying to distance themselves from this crime, and we need to own this crime. I feel like everyone needs to own it. We are like this. We are like this. We are like this.
On a day that is traditionally given to nothing more profound than the collegiate exuberance of the University of Wyoming football team, they had a different type of homecoming this Saturday, where people await the vicious hate crime gay legislation.
University President Philip Du Bois.
This was homecoming weekend. There are a lot of people in town, and there was a homecoming parade that was scheduled. And then the students organized a tag to the back of it, you know, behind the banner supporting them. And everybody wearing the armbands that the students had created.
I live in the center of town.
Harry Woods.
And my apartment has two opposite window signs. One that goes north and one that goes south. Now that's the exact homecoming parade route. Now the day of the parade, I didn't get to walk because I had a cast on my leg. So I was very disappointed that I didn't get to walk with the people marching for Matthew. So I walked from my apartment. And well, it was, well, look, I'm 52 years old, and I'm gay. And I've lived in this town for many years, and I've seen a lot. But that tag at the end of the homecoming parade route, about 100 people marching for Matthew. Anyway, the parade goes down one street, makes a U-turn, and comes down the other street. So I went to the other side of my apartment to go watch it. About 10 minutes later, sure enough, the parade started coming down the end of the street. And it was just the 100 people marching behind Matthew grew 5 times. There were at least 500 people marching for Matthew. The sign at the end of the homecoming parade route was larger than the entire parade. And people just kept joining in, and I just thought, well, tears streamed my face. And my first thought was, thank God that I got to live and see this moment. And my second thought was, thank you, Matthew.
Around 11:30 that night, we had just barely gone to bed, and Margot, our chief operating officer, called and said that, well, his blood pressure was just starting to drop. Let's wait and see. So she called about 10 after, and he just died. So I quick got dressed and went to the ICU, and Judy was there. She put her arms around me, and I put my arms around her. We just stood there, honestly, for about 10 minutes, because what else do you do? Then we had to sit and talk about things that you just
Dennis is now public knowledge. And I'm going to go out there and tell the whole world that this has happened. So by this point, it was clear to us that it was the world. It was the whole world. And Judy told me what she wanted me to say, and I went out and started talking to her.
Matthew Shepard, medical update, 4:30, Monday, October 12th.
At 12 midnight, October 12th, Matthew Shepard's blood pressure began to drop. He immediately notified his family who were already at the hospital. At 12:53 a.m., Matthew Shepard died. His family were already at his bedside. The family did release the following statement. The family would again like to express their sincerest gratitude to the whole world for the overwhelming response for their son. The family was grateful that they did not have to make a decision regarding life and death. Like a good son, he was carried to the end and removed guilt or stress from the family. He came into the world premature, and he left the world premature. Matthew's mother said,
"Go home and hug your kids. And don't let a day go by without you telling them that you love them."
And I don't know what happened. I lost it on national television. But we had been up for 72 hours straight and gone home and went to sleep for half an hour, and it was just way. I don't know. But in a moment of complete brain deadness, while I was out there reading that statement, I thought about my own 4 daughters and go home, hug your kids. And oh God, she doesn't have her kid anymore.
I spoke with Doc today and told him we would soon be coming back for the upcoming trials of Russell Henderson and Aaron McKee. This is what he had to say.
I'll tell you what. If they put those 2 boys to death, that would defeat everything Cal would be thinking about on them. Because Matt wouldn't want those 2 to die. He'd want to leave them with hope. H-O-P-E. Just like the whole world hoped that Matt would survive. You see, that's the thing. Everything wraps around hope. H-O-P-E.